Welcome back, guys. Well, a new set came out today, and even though I didn't finish the Staple series, I figured I'd update it with this new set and just go through everything that came out and what I think will be staple card or maybe close to a staple card in Historic Brawl. Let's just go through all the colors. I already got them here sorted. We got Valorous Stance back. I don't know if that card's already in Arena, but I think it is, and even if it's not, it's going to be probably a playable card. Protects your commander and also could destroy a creature depending on what you're trying to do here. Wedding Announcement. At the beginning of end step, put an invocation counter on Wedding Announcement. If you attack with 2 more creatures this turn, draw cards. This becomes like a good card advantage card. Otherwise, create a human token. Then, if Wedding Announcement has 3 or more invitation counters, transform it, and then it turns into a glorious anthem. I don't know how good this card's going to be, but I would keep an eye on it. It might not be very good, but then we get the Welcoming Vampire. When one or more other creature tokens with power 2 or less enter the battlefield under your control, draw a card. This ability triggers only once each turn. I think this guy's going to see a lot of play, especially in the creature decks. Just a really good card draw engine for white. Hopeful Initiate. These are some cards that might be good enough. Hopeful Initiate. Originally had him on the other list of cards that were good enough, but it just might not be. I don't know. He has to do stuff to actually be good. Otherwise, he's just like anything else. So I'm not sure about that guy. But then we got Olenbach Escort. Sacrifice him. Target creature you control gets +1/+1 counter, and it gains lifelink and indestructible until end turn. So that's like just like the other things. Protect your commander. That card's good. Piercing Light. 2 damage, target attacking and blocking creature for 1 mana. And you scry. I can see that seeing some play. Fleeting Spirit, exile 3 cards from a graveyard. Fleeting Spirit gains first strike until end turn. Then you can discard a card, exile Fleeting Spirit, and he'll return to the battlefield beginning your next end step. So this is just like a recursion creature. Definitely could see some play, but I don't know if it would be a staple, but it would definitely see a lot of play. We talked about Wedding Announcement. I don't know what this theme of this set is, besides it's Innistrad, but I guess there's a wedding. Something about a wedding. They keep talking about weddings here. Faithbound Judge. Defender Flying Vigilance. Beginning your upkeep, if Faithbound Judge has 2 or fewer judgment counters on it, put a judgment counter on it. Then if it has 3 or more, it can attack as though it didn't have Defender. Then it has Disturb for 7. Beginning your upkeep, put a judgment counter on Sinner's Judgment. Then if there are 3 or more counters on it, Enchanted player loses the game. So this is just a win con. Definitely having more win cons is always good. So something you can just stick in the deck. It doesn't really need much else. Savior of Olenbach. Whenever he trains, exile up to 1 other target creature from the battlefield or creature card from a graveyard. Wait, 1 other creature card from the battlefield or creature card from a graveyard. Okay, I didn't know it said or graveyard. When he leaves the battlefield, put them all back into their owner's control. Oh, so if you exile something from a graveyard, they're gonna get that back too. So that's not really even good. But the card's pretty good though. Constant removal, steady removal ability, but the graveyard effect isn't probably not too relative because then you're just giving them stuff. Cemetery Protector. When Cemetery Protector enters the battlefield, exile a card from a graveyard. This is more graveyard hate, which is really good. There's a lot of that in this set. And there's a new mana rock that does it, which I'm really, really hyped about. Whenever you play a land or cast a spell, if it shares a card type with the exile card, create a human token. So again, you can just get like build up your army by not really doing much. Hallowed Haunting. As long as you have 7 more enchantments, creatures you control flying and vigilance. Whenever you cast an enchantment spell, create a 1/1 spirit. I don't know why I put that in there. It's a good card, but it's not staple worthy. It's very specific decks. But anyway, next, go to blue. There's not a lot in the blue. There's not a lot in any of the colors, and I'm reaching here for some of this. But this card, Inspired Idea, I think this card's gonna be like super good. Draw 3 cards for 3 mana, sorcery speed, but you can pay the 5. Okay, so if you pay for the sorcery speed, your hand gets reduced by 3. So you have to have 4 cards as your max hand size for the rest of the game. That kind of sucks, but it really kind of doesn't. Doesn't really matter. So I don't know. This card might see some play, and you can just always pay the 5 and draw. The only thing that sucks about it is it's not an instant. If it was an instant, that card would be so much better. Thirst for Discovery. Draw 3 cards and discard 2 cards unless you discard a basic land. I don't know if this card existed already, but there's a lot of cards like it, unless you discard an artifact, unless you discard this, unless you discard that. Always wanted the land one, and I didn't think it existed, so it's good to have that. And then Cemetery Illuminator. Whenever it enters the battlefield or attacks, exile a card from a graveyard. You may look at the top card of your library anytime. Once each turn, you may cast a spell from the top of your library if it shares a creature type. There's a lot of this stuff where you're exiling cards from graveyards in this set. That's just always good to have in any format. Stop what they're doing, especially with all the graveyard stuff. And then this guy also makes once per turn you can cast the top card of your library if it shares a spell with it. So a lot of good card advantage. I think that guy will see a lot of play. And then Overcharged Amalgam. Probably not saying that word right. Zombie Horror 3/3, Flash, Flying, Exploit. Whenever you exploit the creature, counter target spell, activated ability, or triggered ability. So, I mean, it's just another creature that enters and counters spells. I think those are always really, really good. And him only costing 4 kind of reminds me of Fencer back in the day. I can see him seeing a lot of play. But you do have to sacrifice a creature to get his effect. Not a huge cost. In blue, it is a little harder than normal. The other colors to probably have a creature on board, but now some of the cards I think might not be staples, but they could be. We'll see. Jacob Hawken Inspector. And then it also has another side to it, Hawkins Insight. But draw a card, an exile card from your hand face down. You may look at that card for as long as it remains exiled. You may pay 6 if you do transform him. Now this is where the exile cards will become relevant. At the beginning of your upkeep, exile top card of your library face down. You may look at the card for as long as it remains exiled, just like the other side. But then once during each of your turns, you may play a land or cast a spell from among the exiled cards with this permanent without paying its mana cost and just getting free spells. A little bit flimsy because they can just kill the creature, so that's tough. But if he seems like he can live and he can get a lot done, so it might become a staple. Mirror Hall Mimic. This is a clone spell with recursion, so after it dies, you can cast it for its disturb spell, disturb cost, and it'll keep on making copies of the enchanted creature every turn. Pretty good. Then Hullbreaker Horror. Can't be countered. When you cast a spell, choose one. So anytime you cast any kind of spell, you can either return a spell you don't control to its owner's hand, or you can return target non-land permanent to its owner's hand. Only bad thing about this card is it costs 7, but just like imagining having him out in like a deck with like red and blue, you don't have a counter spell. If you go to play something crazy to kill him, you like lightning bolt, kill one of their creatures and counter their spell by returning it to their hand. They have to cast it all over again. You see a lot of good things that guy could do. Spellstinger. Now we go to black. Spellstinger. Death Touch, Exploit. Whenever he exploits a creature, target player draws 2 and loses 2 life. I just think this card does so much for 3 mana. For 3 mana, you get a Death Touch creature. You decide to sack the creature, which you would always probably want to do. You get to draw 2, lose 2. Like 2 cards in one, and I think it'll be staple worthy, but maybe not. Hero's Downfall's back, printed in Arena finally, and it's an uncommon. Destroy target creature or planeswalker, that's just a staple. And Sorin the Mirthless. I don't even know what that word means. Never seen that word in my life. Look at the top card of your library. You may reveal that card and put it into your hand. If you do, you lose life equal to its mana value. So for 1, you get a card draw effect. This is a 4 mana starting at 4. -2, you get a 2/3 vampire with flying and lifelink, so he can protect himself really well and create a constant flow of creatures to protect you or attack with. And then his -7 is not exciting, but the other 2 are good enough, I think, to make that a staple card. Now, some cards that might not be staples, but they might. When Graph Reaver exploits a creature, destroy target planeswalker. So there's a 2-drop, 3/3 with exploit. When he enters, if you do exploit, you get to kill the planeswalker. At the beginning of your upkeep, Graph Reaver deals 1 damage to you. So he punishes you every turn. But if he hits something, he's going to be worth it. I don't know if there's going to be enough planeswalkers around, if there are enough for him to be good, but he might. We might see him a little more than not. Demonic Bargain. Exile top 13 cards of your library, then you get to search for a card. Put that card in your hand, then shuffle. I think Historic Brawl is like one of the perfect places for this, but it might just be too risky. I don't know. I'll have to play it and find out. Falcon Wrath Forebear. Can't block. When he does combat damage to a player, create a blood token. Sacrifice 2 blood tokens, return from the graveyard to the battlefield, so just recursion. Might see him, he's flying, so you can always like poke in, just bringing him back constantly. Might be a good card. Cemetery Desecrator. When it enters the battlefield or dies, exile another card from a graveyard. When you do, choose one. Remove X counters from target permanent, where X is the mana value of the exile card. Or target creature an opponent controls gets -X/-X, where X is the mana value of the exile card. So he can kill planeswalkers, he can kill creatures, and he can do it a lot. When he enters or dies, so it's twice. Okay, not too much, but that's still a lot. 2 effects. Once he's on the field, they might be scared to kill him because you're going to hit something real big. Let's go to red. There's a lot of cards in red that I'm not sure of. There wasn't a lot of great stuff in red, but there's a couple cards. Which brings us to Reckless Impulse. Exile top 2 cards of your library until the end of your next turn. You may play those cards. So it's pretty much a better draw spell, I feel like, for blue. You don't get to use it. If you don't use the cards, then you lose them. But still, I just think it's so much better than playing like a Thirst for Knowledge, or it's not Thirst for Knowledge. Thrill of Possibilities, that's it. Chandra Just to Kill. 3 mana, 3 points when she comes out, 3 loyalty, +1 add a red, and then she does 1 damage to a target player or planeswalker. So that's just ramp. Always good to have that in a red deck. And then +1 again, exile top card of your library. If it's red, you may cast it this turn. So more card advantage. His card advantage or mana. I mean, it's just a good card. I feel like the last ability is not even relevant. And then we have Cemetery Gatekeepers. So these are the cards I think might not really be staple worthy. When it enters the battlefield, exile a card from the graveyard. When a player casts, plays a land or casts a spell, if it shares a card type with it, this deals 2 damage. So you could just get lots of damage, but once he dies, it goes away. So it might not be that great. But because red is like really creature heavy in the past couple years, especially on arena, he'll probably be really, really good and fit right in most historic brawl decks. Change of Fortune, discard your hand, then draw a card for each card you've discarded this turn. This card is just powerful. It's just really good. I don't know if it's good enough to be in every deck, but it's good to be in a lot of red decks. Into the Night, another card that's very similar to the last one. Comes Night, you can discard any number of cards, and then you draw that many cards +1. I kind of feel like this card's better than the last one, but more card draw. Maniform Hellkite, whenever you cast a non-creature spell, create an XX red dragon illusion creature token with flying and haste, where X is the amount of mana spent to cast that spell. Exile that token at the beginning of next end step. Constant creature creation, it's really good for red to create tokens. Which brings us to this card, Stensia Uprising. Every turn you create a token, then if you have 13 permanents, you can sacrifice it. You don't have to, but you can. And if you do, you can do 7 damage to any target. Pretty much like finishes up the game for you, so you don't have to like use them once. But if you're getting them in and attack them with them, then you can finally like just rip the enchantment and kill them. Olivia's Attendants. Whenever Olivia's Attendants deals damage, create that many blood tokens. You can pay 3 and deal 1 damage to any target, so you can create the blood tokens. So that's just more card draw, and I think red just needs it so much. Let's go to green. There's 3 cards that I'm pretty certain are going to be staples, and then a bunch more that aren't. Not sure of. We have Dig Up. 1 green. You search your library for a basic land card, reveal it, and put it in your hand, and shuffle. But if you pay the 4, which is 2 black, a green, and a colorless, search your library for a card, put it in your hand, then shuffle. I mean, just tutors are always going to see play. And in a format with not very great tutors and not very many of them, and in green especially, it's going to see a lot of play. Beginning your upkeep, you may mill 2 cards. Whenever 1 or more creature cards are put into your graveyard from anywhere during your turn, create an insect token. The insect token's really not the part of this card that's good, but just the fact that you're going to be milling yourself 2 cards every turn. These kinds of effects are just so useful. Which, again, this guy has the same effect. When enters the battlefield or attacks, exile a card from a graveyard. Spells you cast cost 1 less to cast for each. Okay, so he removes cards from graveyards. There's something else in here I had. But spells you cast 1 less for each card type they share with cards exile with Cemetery Prowler. So keep exiling cards and you keep making things cost more, less and less. You have an enchantment creature and you've exiled an enchantment and a creature, it costs 2 less. So lots of value. I can see that guy seeing a lot of play. Ascendant Pack Leader. This is another card that's probably going to be a staple, most likely. 2/1, and then he just has reasons to get bigger. I mean, I can't think of any 2/1s right now in green, and it's shocking. But let's keep going. Reclusive Taxidermist, just mana ramp that he can get a little stronger if the game goes long. Toxic Scorpion. Whenever Toxic Scorpion enters the battlefield, another target creature gains Death Touch until end of turn. I feel like with like Flash and stuff, you might see this guy come into play a little bit. Howpack Piper. So it's just pretty much an Elvish Piper, but if you do it for a werewolf, you get to untap it, so you can constantly do it. And I didn't even read the other side. There's a battlefield that transforms into Wild Song Howler. Look at the top side. You may be able to creature. Okay, so when you transform into his other side, you get a free search of the top 6 for a creature. So that's, yeah, I think that Piper's going to see a lot of play. Glorious Sunrise is interesting. Lots of effects. Creatures you control get pumped up. Mana ramp, card draw. So it does a lot of the stuff we look for in a staple. That's why I was on this list. Cultivator Colossus. Power on top of this are each equal to the number of lands you control. Whenever Cultivator Colossus enters the battlefield, you may put a land from your hand in the battlefield tapped. Now here's the kicker. If you do, you have to draw a card and repeat the process. I feel like that gives way to a lot of potential storm and other effects that you can take advantage of just playing lands, maybe a whole deck full of lands or mostly lands, and then get ramped out real fast. And then we have Olivia Crimson Bride. So I guess Olivia is getting married in the story. I don't know. Seems like it. Flying Haste. Whenever she attacks, return target creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield tapped and attacking. It gains when you don't control a legendary vampire, exile this creature. So you just get to keep reanimating creatures. But most importantly, the turn you play her, he has haste, so you get to do it right away. You know if you're gonna swing through. Not the best card, but I think she's gonna see a lot of play. At least in black red. It's hard to do staple cards in multicolored, but I still wanted to highlight them. This guy, whenever he enters the battlefield, or this is the card that mills you a lot. Or at the beginning of your upkeep, mill a card. The land is milled this way, get a treasure token. The creature, get an insect token. If a non-creature, non-land, you get a blood token. So no matter what you mill, you're getting something good. It's just card advantage and mana ramp potentially, so good card. And then we have the Vile Spawn Spider for the same reason. At the beginning of your upkeep, mill a card. Grolnok the Omnivore. This is a really interesting card, and I think this is our last card outside of artifacts. When a permanent card is put into your graveyard from your library, exile it with a croak counter on it. When you play lands and cast spells from among the cards you own in exile with croak counters on it. You may play lands and cast spells. I don't know what the fuck I was reading. So pretty much, also whenever a frog you control attacks, mill 3. I don't think that's the most important part of this card, even though that's really good too. But when you permanents hit your graveyard, you exile them, and then you can play lands and cast spells from among the cards you own exiled. Really, really good. Lantern of the Lost, just another graveyard hating card that costs 1, similar to lots of others that were on my colorless historic staples video. Investigative Journal. This is some card draw, interesting card draw. When it enters the battlefield with a number of suspect counters on it equal to the greatest number of creatures a player controls. So whoever has the most creatures, that's how many counters this gets. Then you can remove counters to draw cards. And you can sacrifice this just to draw a card too. So it guarantees that you're going to at least draw 1 card off it, and it's a clue. So you might be able to use it for other things. Foreboding Statue for 3. Colorless, tap, add mana any color, and put an omen counter. At the beginning of your end step, if there's 3 or more omen counters on him, untap him. He becomes a 5/5 that gives you a mana every turn. So just mana ramp. Mana ramp's always good. Makes a staple. Honored Heirloom, more mana ramp, but more importantly, graveyard hate at the same time. So if you don't use the mana, you can just be picking off cards in their graveyard. Just really love that card. It's just an added positive effect on something you would already run. So I think that card will see play. In my decks, it will. And then Dollhouse of Horrors, last card, exile a creature card from your graveyard. Create a token that's a copy of the exiled card, except it's a construct. So every turn you can do this. Or if you untap it, you can do even more. Construct artifact in addition to its other types, and it has this creature gets +1/+1 for each construct you control. You can haste until end of turn. Activate as a sorcery, so you can't do it at instant speed, which a lot of stuff's been saying that lately. It's been pissing me off, but creating creature tokens, always good. Well, that wraps it up for all the cards out of the new set, Crimson Vow, that I think are going to be staples. Keep an eye out. I got more videos coming out. This was just a quick video I threw together just to talk about this set. But there is a video that came out today, and there will be one tomorrow. Thanks for watching, guys.